Hello, beautiful 1 million meditators. I'm here today with Laughlin Artz. And you're gonna love what this amazing friend of mine has to say. It's all about 2020 or bust. What a cool name that is. Welcome. He is a leader and innovator in the fields of cultural transformation and contextual activism. And as I mentioned earlier, the founder of 2020 or bust. And today we're going to talk, or he's going to talk, all about the climate crisis that we're currently facing. Welcome, my dear friend.
Thank you so much. Just such a joy and a privilege to be with you and everyone else that's out there as part of this. So thank you for including me.
And I know you are connecting with the world from Brooklyn, New York.
I am.
Okay, and I'm in Toronto, Canada. And the most ardent.
You know what they say about Toronto, right? They say it's like New York without the dirt. So.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that expression.
Yeah.
Yes. So the climate crisis, with all of your past experience and talents, and I gotta let everybody know, first of all, you're gonna want to share this, not necessarily because it's the most important topic today, but because I have the pleasure of interviewing and I have no clue what I'm doing when I'm interviewing. And I'm interviewing a professional journalist. Can you imagine that? I watched one of your interviews, Laughlin, and it was in Paris, France, with a scientist who was talking about the current crisis.
Yes.
What are, without being doom and gloom, but what are the statistics? What are we really facing?
Yeah, well, yeah, so I think that the interview you were talking about was with Dr. Nicholas Hoon. And
exactly.
and first of all, just a little background, as you said, I got into this as a journalist. I'm not a scientist, and I didn't even like science in school. So you know, I'm no fan of maps and charts and statistics and all that stuff, right? But if you're going to get into this deal, which I did, you're going to be your world, right? Conferences, statistics, charts, all that, and the conversation I had that you're talking about, which consisted with all the conversations I've had, I just wanted to get this whole business of climate change, get it in a way that ordinary people could understand it, that didn't need to have a degree, that didn't need to be a scientist, that didn't, because there is a way to talk about that. And he was, just want to thank him, right, since you brought him up, was really instrumental in making that possible.
Right.
Right. And so fundamentally, kind of the model that we use is, if you look at the atmosphere like a balloon, there's, you can keep blowing air into a balloon, and then at some point, you blow so much air into the balloon that it explodes. And so our atmosphere is much like that. You just can't keep, chugging carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. You just can't keep chugging it into the atmosphere endlessly, because at some point, you're going to have a problem. And so there's this thing called the carbon budget. Mm-hmm. And what that says is, just like the balloon, that at some level, you're going to use up the budget. And if you surpass the budget, that puts us into what we call the not safe zone. You're just not safe anymore. And if you look at there's a direct correlation between the amount of carbon or CO2 equivalencies that we shoot into the atmosphere and the warming of the climate. So the more we shoot, the warmer it gets. That's just how it goes. Very, pretty direct correlation. And what has been agreed to, or commonly agreed to, is that if we can keep our increase in warming to a maximum of 2 degrees Celsius of an increase from the Industrial Revolution time, we're going to be okay.
Okay.
But if we go beyond 2 degrees, that's going to be what one of my colleagues at the UN calls science fiction time. Not good, right? So that became our whole game, right? And if we can get to 0 emissions before we use up the budget, we will have won the game. And that, for me, was kind of simple enough to understand, okay, we've got this budget. We can't use up the budget. If we stay within the budget, we win the game. Now, as far as where we are, right now, we just crossed the 1 degree increase. So of the 2 degrees we're allotted to increase and still stay relatively safe, although as you can see what's happening with all the hurricanes and the fires in California, and I mean it's like it's already happening. So it isn't like, oh, this thing is like far down in the future, right? But we've just passed the 1 degree. Now, with all the carbon that's already in the atmosphere, because it stays there for hundreds of years, even if we stopped emissions right now, no cars, no factories, like 0 emissions right now, with the carbon that's already in the atmosphere, we're going to warm to at least another 0.3 degrees. So where we are, just this is the way it is that we're at about a 1.3 degree increase in temperature, which means we've only got a 0.7 degree window left to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's where we are. And then it's like, okay, well, how long will it take for us to use up that window? And the answer to that is about 15 years. So at our current rate of emissions, and this includes the Paris Accord and the commitments of the Paris Accord and all of that, at the current rate that we're going, in 15 years, we will have used up the budget, which means we will have locked in a future of at least a 2 degree increase in warming, okay? Now, what's predictable is that we're going to go to about 3 or 4 degrees, which fundamentally means that life as we know it will not exist. It's just not possible for humans to live the way that they've been living, and everything will have to change and all of that. Just well, things that'll happen is, so for example, right now it's predicted in about 30 years there will be somewhere between 500 million and 1 billion climate refugees. So that's about 1 out of 8 people currently alive.
Wow.
Which means they currently have a place to live, and at that point they won't. Because of the rising sea levels, because of the hurricanes, they just literally will be looking for some place. And again, it's I go to, not again, but I go to these conferences where you get to talk to people from all over the world. And you talk to people from, the Pacific Islands, for example, and they will tell you, you folks in America go home to your offices. We go home to people that have nowhere to live and no place to grow their crops anymore. We're literally sinking. I mean, we're underwater. And so the other thing that'll happen is that there will be cities that will fundamentally won't be here anymore. Houston will be gone. Not flooded, gone. Miami will be gone.
Gone how?
Underwater.
Oh, because obviously as the ice melts and the water level rises.
That's right. So, and again, there's a lot of this that nobody talks about, which is one of the reasons we got into this, because we wanted to give ordinary people the opportunity to actually see what's happening, right? So, about 25% of Manhattan will be flooded, like permanently flooded at that point with 2 degrees. So there's all kinds of things that happen, none of which is good, mind you. Okay, there's none of which like, thank goodness for global warming. This is, the climate change. This is really great. And but all of that is in the future, you see. So it's we humans are not that smart in one respect, right? It's kind of like until we can see it, hey, it can't be that bad, right? So, and that was one of our problems, that we had when we said, okay, well, we've got 15 years to win this game. If you tell people you've got 15 years to win the game, they'll say, well, call me in 14. No rush.
Leave me a memo.
Exactly, right? So, and the White House report that was put together by about 600 independent scientists back when Obama was president, the IPCC report from the UN, all the big reports have been saying for a while that 2020 is the break point. Right around 2020, 2021 really is, we've got to peak our emissions at a certain level and then have them start to decline.
Stabilize and decline, yeah.
Exactly. So because, and our thing was, the only thing I thought anybody should be talking about is what's the gap between where we're headed and where we need to be, and what are we going to do to bridge the gap?
Mm-hmm.
And we found very few people talking about that.
So that's the reason why you made this your life's mission, right?
That's right. That's right. Is that if you're on the planet, you have the right to know what's happening. And if you want to take an action that's going to make a difference, you should know what action to take that will actually do that. We thought everybody had the right to know what that was. Right. And so, you know, that became our work. And that's where the, you know, interview with, you know, Dr. Nicholas Hoon and the other scientists and diplomats and everybody else that has been, you know, wonderful, you kind of join our team and work with us. That's where all that came from, was being able to get that information disseminated and to give people the power to make a difference in the matter.
Right. So I know that 2020 or Bust is a really cool name, but really, what is the motivation behind, and what is different from the work that you're doing from all other organizations who are striving to help with this crisis?
Yeah, good. And I thank you for that question, right? Because one thing I definitely want to say, you know, we definitely want to position 2020 or Bust as unique, but it isn't like, okay, we're the ones with the answer, and we don't want to at all diminish other people's work. And I mean, people have been in this thing for a lot longer than I have. And, you know, really, you know, as my friend at the one of my friends at the UN said, listen, if it wasn't for all of the work that we've done, the gap that you're out to close would be much bigger. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that distinguishes us is that, well, one is that we want to give ordinary people the actual facts of the matter without any generalizations, platitudes, optimism. You know, it's not, you know, it isn't, oh my God, we're all going to die. And it isn't, everything's going to be fine. It's somewhere in between, but it really needs to be, your house has burned this far. The fire is burning at this rate. If it, you know, if you want to put it out, you have to have this much water. Where you're going to get the water, like, to make it very, very practical. Mm-hmm. And so what we kind of found was, and again, this was from the help of, you know, the scientists that work with us, we said, okay, we fundamentally came up with what the gap was, which is about 8 gigatons. We need to reduce our emissions by about 8 gigatons. In about the next 2 years, somewhere between 16 months to 2 years, but somewhere in that time frame, we got to reduce our emissions by 8 gigatons, about 15%.
Worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide, absolutely worldwide, from 52 gigatons to 44 gigatons. And again, we're not science people, so that'll be one of the few statistics you'll, okay, right? And then we said, okay, well, is there anything that an individual can do? See, a lot of the prevailing propaganda out there, including from the climate community, some of them, is that this is too big for individuals. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to people, you know, like, for example, if I stop somebody on the street and said, okay, tell me what you did today that produced a tangible impact in ending the climate crisis, they would think I was crazy. Because people don't relate to themselves as having the power to produce a tangible impact in ending the climate crisis. They relate to themselves as insignificant to a large degree, mm-hmm. that the government is who's going to deal with this, that the United Nations is who's going to deal with this, Al Gore or Tesla, oh shit, I forgot.
Or people with degrees that have so many letters behind the names, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That they're handling it. Geez, I hope they're handling it. I'm sure they're handling it. The Paris Accord, all of that stuff. And the fact is, none of that is true. Mm-hmm. That's just not the case. And how I know is because I've gone and talked to these people. So there's a mindset out there that is what we say is the real crisis. And the mindset is, and again, in the matter of ordinary people, the mindset is that climate change is too big and too complex for any individual, including me, to make any real impact. The other one is that, that the government or someone else is handling it. They should be handling it. And, you know, big march happening, big strike happening tomorrow, right? Big climate strike all over the world. And much of the strike is about protesting the government, getting the government to do its job. which is fine. I mean, the government needs to do its job. But if you look at the window that we're in and how much time we've got to produce the result that needs to be produced, the government is not the way to go. It takes way too long. We don't have time to get the right legislation passed or to elect the right president. We have a very, very small window, like we said, between 16 months and 2 years to produce a very specific result. And the only thing that's going to produce that result is direct action. So then we went and said, okay, well, is there anything that individuals can do to make that impact? And what the scientists came up with is if 500 million people take simple carbon reducing actions as a collective, we can actually bridge that gap. But what it takes is for those 500 million people to wake from what we call the trance, which is it's up to somebody else, or it's too big for me, to wake from that trance, right? And then start taking those actions. I'm going to not eat that hamburger today.
Yes.
I'm going to take the train instead of driving my car. I'm going to take my bag to the grocery store instead of having them give me the plastic one. Really, really simple things. And then bigger things that people can do, installing solar, getting an electric car. That's all in there too. But a lot of people don't have that kind of funding or resources. So we kept it for ordinary people. So that became our mission, was to wake up 500 million people. And that's the other thing that kind of distinguishes us, other than that we've got a specific tangible plan for ordinary people to end the climate crisis, is that we're going about it as a function of empowerment. That we want humanity to wake up to its own power to deal with a situation that has heretofore looked insurmountable, too big and unconfrontable. Because we think that's the real opportunity. Because if you got 500 million people to wake up like that, man, you can take on anything, human trafficking, whatever you want to deal with. But we want to get kind of whatever it is that has just seemed too out of my reach as an individual. It isn't. It does require a strategy. It does require a plan. It does require lots of thinking and all like that. But you can bring it down to that an individual to have that kind of power to see that the choices that I make and the actions that I take every day have a global impact and impact all of humanity.
And oh my God, you are so right. Each and every one of us has this power. And this September 28th, we're celebrating 2 years of 1 Million Meditators Global Meditation. You have no idea how many thousands upon thousands of emails, messages we've gotten where people participated in this global meditation, and they wrote to say, I really felt, I know a lot of people talk about oneness and one consciousness, but I felt it. And they described that I felt I was the ocean, or I was a tree, or I was
Oh, yeah, come on. That's awesome.
Yeah. But aside from this beautiful experience the 1 Million Meditators had during global meditations, but they are all believing that by waking up and knowing how powerful each and every one is.
Yes.
And yes. So what we're doing with 1 Million Meditators is what you're doing. Please tell me a little bit more about the app, because I would implore everybody to download it, because it's such a cool app. Please tell us how it works and how each individual can be a hero. Literally, I mean that. You can be the hero.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We it's I'm old, right, of the older generation. So in my day it was marching, putting up posters, very hands-on kind of stuff before all this technology, right? So when we created 2020 or Bust, it was all right. Well, what's going to be our means? What can we have taking a stand for my own power and the power to end the climate crisis? What kind of tool could we get or develop that would give this the best shot possible of going viral? And so we thought, let's do an app. And so the app is called 2020 or Bust, and it's available on the Apple Store for your iPhone. It's available on the Google Play Store if you have an Android. and you download the app.
And it's free, right?
What?
Is it free?
It is totally free.
Okay.
Absolutely free. Absolutely free. And you'll see as soon as you download the thing, what comes up right in your face is, I'm ending the climate crisis. So because we didn't want this just to be taking action, and we want the action to be taken. That's definitely critical, right? But we wanted this to be that we wanted the act of downloading the app to be an opportunity for people to stand for their own power and to make that declaration that I am ending the climate crisis. And then the other thing it says right underneath it is, this is mine. And so that's, again, that it's not the governments, it's not the lousy, it's not the terrible Republicans or blah, blah, it's like, no, this is mine. The whole thing is mine. Humanity is mine. Climate change is mine. The government's mine. It's all mine. And this is what I'm doing. So, and then what you've got is, then you can start taking action. And so you click to take the action, and it brings up a whole menu of actions that you can take. You can reduce your beep intake. You can take public transportation. You can plant a tree if you'd like to do that. All kinds of things. And then when you click on the action that you take, then you get points. The other thing that I think is cool is that you can also then take a picture of whatever the action is that you're taking, or a picture of you taking the action, and then you can send it out so that everybody knows you are cool, okay? Because that.
I love that.
And one of the campaigns we have is, don't let the planet get hotter than you.
Oh.
So the meme is right in there. You put yourself right in the frame, and it's like, okay, what makes me hot is that I recycle, or what makes me hot is that I took my bike today, or whatever that is, right? And then the other meme we've got is the "this is mine" meme. But anyway, because again, you can share it with people, you can invite people to download the app, but it really is, we're out to get right in line with you, right? Is that we're out to get 1 million users of the app by the end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to get 1 million people. Now, here's how it works. I mean, I'm not saying that this is how it would happen, but if everybody on the app shared it with one person, and then the next day they shared it with one person, and the next day they shared it with one person, we'd get to 500 million in 29 days.
Oh my God. So everybody, just pause for a second. Everybody who's watching this live, please share it right now. Please share this interview on all of your social, on WhatsApp, on Messenger, whatever your favorite, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Because this would be so easy. There are, I think, 10,000 meditators in our community right now. So if everybody downloaded and used it,
yes.
it. You have to take action.
You have to take action.
Share. Oh my God, we can totally do this by the end of this year, right?
Wow, yes. No, absolutely.
And I love that you start with such an empowering statement. I am. It's up to me. It's gonna be. It's up to me. Yes. People must not wait for politicians and for government. They might have great intentions. Some of them, but they move too slow. They're big dinosaurs that move too slow, right?
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect way to. They are definitely dinosaurs that move too slow. Yeah, absolutely. And again, we take away none of that. People that are working politically and through legislation, very, very, very important. But for example, the new Green Deal, which, was a very wonderful proposition and people are getting behind it and everything, it's not in time. And the Paris Accord, that which is a wonderful, wonderful agreement. But the Paris Accord, one thing that ordinary people, or a lot of people, like me that, aren't scientists or whatever, or don't work at the UN, you don't know that agreement is not designed to end climate change.
What is it meant to do then?
It's a collaborative agreement. It's an agreement of consensus. It's an agreement that brings those 190 so countries together that said, yes, climate change is an actual problem, and here's what we're going to do to address it. But if you add up all of the commitments in the Paris Agreement, it's far, far less than what's needed to actually end the crisis in time. Now, that doesn't mean the agreement's not great. It's a wonderful agreement. What isn't wonderful is a lot of people are out there in the trance called, as long as the Paris Agreement goes well, we're fine. And it's not the case.
Huh.
So
Know what? Just last night, I was taking my doggy for a hike in the forest, and some other people also with a doggy, and we were fighting mosquitoes. It's totally unnatural at this time of year in Canada, to have so many mosquitoes.
Yes.
And the climate crisis came up as a subject.
Absolutely.
And the gentleman I was talking to, he was a young dude. He said, "Oh my God, I'm so happy for the Paris Agreement."
No, look, you should be happy for it. Like, I
mean, that shows that he's not truly informed. He's relying on the Paris Agreement.
Yes, yeah, and it's just not the case. And so that's, it's just really, really imperative that that there is that kind of global awareness, rather than, because look, and it's not personal. I mean, it's like anything. You don't want to get really, really bad news. You don't want to get something that, oh my God, we can't do anything about. It's like it's let's just do our best and hope, which is a lot of what happened. And as I go to these conferences and you hear these people with wonderful plans, and then they'll, every once in a while, somebody will say, and we know this is not enough, but we have to stay optimistic. Now, I'm nothing against optimism, but I think it's a lousy, lousy plan. And that's why that we keep banging on no. Don't just say it's not enough. How much not enough is it? And what are we going to do to bridge the gap of the not enough that it is?
Yeah.
So,
and really, I know that during our global meditations, we focus on meditating and visualizing and feeling and engaging all of our senses for a world as we would like to have it. Because what you focus on, you create more. But in parallel, we have, each of us individually, we have to, and thank you so much for creating this app, because this will give me now measurable results of for years now. I've been recycling. My husband and I decided to have only one car, to share one car. And it's going to be so amazing to actually, to celebrate all of these small actions that I'm taking, and then share them with the world with the intent to inspire others to say, you don't have to disrupt your life.
That's right.
You can take some small steps.
That's right.
And, as Thoreau was saying, go back to nature a little bit, not completely, because without it, we don't have a home. There's no planet B.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to talk about? It's like, this is kind of it. Okay, so yeah.
Okay, so again, I'm going to ask everybody who's watching or listening to this on iTunes or watching the replay, please pause it right now and go to 2020, the numbers 2020, Orbit, and download this app that this beautiful, generous man has made available for free, and start engaging. Even if you don't do it for yourself, okay, do it for your children. If you don't have children, then think about all of the future generations and the legacy that you, just knowing that you were part of this, that you helped turn the faith of the earth around when it was at its most critical point, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I get so...
And just so everybody knows, if you happen to be in New York or live around New York, whatever, we are hosting the Climate Enlightenment Summit.
When is that?
That's this Sunday. So that's this Sunday, the 22nd. Right in the midst of all the other climate activities that are happening here in New York, the night before the official start of New York Climate Week. It's the 22nd. It's at St. John's Lutheran Church on Christopher Street in the West Village from 6 to 8 p.m. And we would love to see you there. No charge, but it's going to be rock'em sock'em. You're like, no kidding. We're going to lay out the whole business about the 500 million, and we are getting to work. So It's going to be a great evening. And if you can't come physically, it's going to be live streamed on the 2020 or Bust Facebook page.
2020 or Bust Facebook page.
Yep.
So tune into the live stream if you're not in the vicinity of New York. Okay, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
This is the 1 Million Meditators, the conversations with 1 Million Meditators. I know you are a meditator, and I want to know, like, truly, does meditation truly make a difference in your life? And do you truly believe that large groups of people coming together in meditation with one focused intention, that is to feel love for oneself, all of humanity, and all of the planet, can that impact in any way? So first you, your life, and meditation, global meditations.
Yeah. So in terms of, my experience with meditation, let me say this. I find, and I think it's more in the Western world, and again, I'm no expert, okay, but I have done a decent amount of traveling. We're so much like, make this happen, make this happen, make this happen, make this happen, right? Deadlines, just, emails to answer. I mean, it's just like, it's just one big timeline from you when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed, and how you're going to get it all in.
Yes.
And rather than, and I don't know how I'll say it like this, rather than being available for things to show up, rather than being available for what might be able to come to you, rather than what you're going to go out and make happen, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one of the things that I found with meditation is that kind of sense of opening myself up to be available for things beyond what I've got. Right? So it's not me doing my best, or it's not me kind of pushing myself out into the world. It's opening myself up as kind of a receptacle, kind of a vehicle for something that would then have the opportunity to kind of speak through me.
Which is what you're doing right now. It seems like you did open yourself up, and it seems like you did receive.
Yes, it's I tell people, listen, if somebody would have told me 10 years ago your future is going to be, climate change, I'd have said, please tell me you're mistaken. This is never my dream, right? So, and so anyway, I just think that kind of sense of kind of the loss of the identity of how I walk around, that this is who I am, that the kind of opening up to the wholeness of life, I think is really amazing. And then in terms of, the difference that makes, or the second part of your question about, I would not be presumptuous enough to answer that yes or no.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's for me to answer. I'd like to be part of the answer, right? You see, hopefully I could be useful enough for whatever that is, that I could be part of the answer. But that's, I think, the best I could do on that front.
You already are part of the answer. Thank you. Thank you, my dear friend.
Thank you. Just beautiful. Just so beautiful being with you and in your space and your light. And it's just what you are a hero right there, right? Come on. Yeah.
We all are. Every single person who is going to make time to participate this Sunday, and every single person who's going to take 15 minutes to meditate with us, everybody is a hero. Because let's let's face it, time, not money, is our most precious currency these days. So
Yes.
thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening, for rewatching and sharing this replay. And thank you, my dear friend. I cannot wait to come have another with you in New York City.
Beautiful. I can't wait either.
I love myself. I love you, and I love the planet.
I love you. I love my planet. Thank you. Thank you. Great.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.